Everybody, what's going on? I'm Fabian for Liberty. FabianForLiberty.com is my website, or FabianCalvo.me. If you haven't already, you may want to opt in the upper right-hand corner. Leave me your name and email address. You'll be one of the first to receive my podcast, which is new today. A bunch of other things that we send out, and I don't know. You may not want to opt in. Truth is that I rarely opt into stuff because I don't want to get any new emails. But if you like my channel, you like what I have to talk about, then then just throwing that out there. Now, I want to talk about something that I covered in the podcast today. This Tuesday I'm doing a webinar on the global economic reset where I'm going to cover economic things that are happening right now that I believe point to this big economic shift that's coming. But, I've read countless books on history, a lot of stuff on economic history, and we know that by historical fact that economic shifts aren't just an isolated event where it's just economics. Many times there's cultural, social things that coincide. And certainly that's happening right now. Political issues that coincide as well. And that's the purpose of this video. That's what I want to break down is 3 indicators of a coming economic shift. The first one that I'm going to break down is basically amnesty for illegals. Now, I've been talking about this for some time, as many others. We know that recently Obama basically issued a fiat amnesty for what he claimed to be up to 5 million illegals. Many of them, and again, I don't blame them. I don't dislike these illegals. If I were them, I'd be doing the same thing. I'd want to get out of parts of Mexico that are absolute hellholes because then there's no opportunity to come over here and be able to work. If I had kids, of course I would do that. So it's not them, it's just how they're being used by the psychopathic, lunatic leftists in this country and by the Republican Party as well to advance their own agenda and to hold power. Now, they said 5 million, many who can't read or write in their own language, and we're supposed to believe that's good for the economy, right? Bringing in a bunch of uneducated, cheap labor, somehow that's going to help the economy for native-born Americans or immigrants that have come here legally, that's somehow going to help out. I'm a numbers guy. That kind of, know a lot about supply and demand. That kind of doesn't really add up. But, I could be totally wrong. So with amnesty now, there was an interesting, our writer who writes for our OpanaNaturals.com website and for some of our other blogs as well. She sent me a transcription of the Mark Levin show from yesterday. Mark Levin, Mark Levin's a little too hawkish for me. There's definitely things that I like about him, including his defense of the Founding Fathers and the Constitution and Bill of Rights. I think he's really good on that. Point is that it's not about him. It's about a guest he had on that had worked for a program that was called The New Americans. She was on the call for The New Americans. The New Americans were illegals. And she was talking about how internally the numbers were really between 13 and 15 million that they wanted to give amnesty to. Now, I've talked about that number being as high. Certainly, there's close to 20 million illegals in this country. Now, the numbers that they usually report are like 8 to 9 million. It's government, okay? It's like they always understate things. And many other people have talked about how they want to flood the country with illegals. Now, why do they want to do that? Well, they want to do that to change the demographics of the country. That's why many of them are being bussed and shipped into typically conservative type states, because the reality is that most of these people will likely vote for liberal Democrats that are going to give them free stuff and are posing as champions for their cause or their plight. Now, that's one thing. I'm going to tie all this in together afterwards. The next one is the ATF recently came out based on an Obama executive order where they want to ban bullets for the most popular firearm rifle in America, which is the AR-15. That's very interesting. And the last one is yesterday, the FCC, unelected bureaucrats that were never elected by you or I whatsoever. They didn't even come before Congress to testify about what's even in the new internet regulatory bill that's going to pass also by executive order. That passed yesterday. So here we have amnesty, a ban on the AR-15 bullets that's coming, and the internet regulations. Now you might say, well, Fabian, what does that have to do with the economy? Well, I think these are all kind of a checklist of preparations that are being brought in prior to there being a major economic shift, particularly the dollar losing its world reserve currency status. I think they need to silence opposing views, and for that matter, put a muzzle on the last bastion of real freedom of expression, which is the internet. That's not working out for a tyrannical state that has an agenda of basically imposing this almost economic slavery on the majority of Americans, certainly the ones that are completely ill-prepared for what's coming, while at the same time flooding the country with people they know will continue to vote for their policies, as well as, I think, and I don't really like to get into this thing. I used to talk about it more when I started. Maybe I was a little bit more hardcore then. I mean, I still believe this stuff. I just don't, because some of it sounds like hyperbole. When you talk about a second civil war in America. But I'll tell you what, I speak to people in the military often. My brother-in-law was in the military, and they all know they've been lied to. A lot of people bash the military. I don't, because I think they're the first defense against a tyrannical government, especially the returning veterans that are back here, because they've seen firsthand the devastation caused by this criminal government and these other countries and their policies, and the devastation it's caused for the actual soldiers as well, that many, again, are dying at the VA, for the love of Pete. So, banning AR-15 bullets, making it harder to get those, certainly, I think, is a direct shot at gun owners. It's a direct shot at the people who showed up at the Bundy Ranch, as I talked about a few days ago. The government is scared to death of those people. Because quite frankly, it only takes a few of those people, and I'm not saying I don't want any violence. I'm just saying it only takes a few people that take a stand, as we saw at Bundy Ranch, to then have a flood of other people say, hey, you know what, I agree with them too. So certainly, I think these are indicators that a major economic shift is coming. I think the government is getting prepared for it. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. I'm Fabian Calvo, Fabian for Liberty. Thanks for watching. I'm out.